Welcome to A Photographer's Life, the channel that takes you behind the curtain into the world of professional architectural photography. Join us now for an episode with some of America's premier architectural photographers. Today's broadcast comes from a recent Zoom meeting of the Association of Independent Architectural Photographers. This discussion is led by AIAP Director Alan Blakely. We hope you enjoy the show. If you do, please let us know by liking this episode and subscribing to this channel. Now, on with the show.
I think we're going to get started here with this meeting, and I wanted to talk about drone photography and how it affects our business and how we add it to our business and some of the challenges that you might encounter. And just to start out, is everyone here using a drone, or do you personally fly a drone? Okay. I was hoping to have some jump in that aren't and just see why that is. But at the outset, how was the certification process for everybody? Was that a challenge or not so much? Or
I found it time consuming. I approached it casually at first, and then I realized it was just too much information to do that way. And so I decided I had to, dedicate, I don't know what it was, 3 evenings a week or something like that, 2 evenings a week, just as if it was a class I was, going to, and work it through that way. And it took, I never kept track of my hours, but I felt like it was the equivalent of a college course, a couple hours twice a week in class, so to speak. And then, because I did an online class and then studying time. But there are other people that I know of that, go to one of these drone academy weekends at a hotel, and in 2 days they got a license. So, and I'm not, fine. I'm all for that. I found it to be, you got to take it seriously and you got to study. And I had to recertify in February, and I, got all my notes back out again and refreshed a bunch of stuff. And that was certainly quicker. I found it interesting. I got a 93 the first time around. I got a 93 the second time around. So there's 7% of this that just doesn't fit my brain. But I don't know. How did you guys get yours? Did you study for it? Did you do a crash course? No pun intended.
Yeah. I did an online tutorial kind of thing.
Yeah, that's how I did mine.
I had flight school years and years ago. And so that helped a little bit as far as sectional maps and stuff like that. But there was still a lot of specifics with regard to flying drones that I had to learn and understand. And my concern about some of these weekend courses that you see advertised at the hotels is they teach you learn the answers that are going to come up, but you don't really learn the concepts behind the answers. It's a lot of really fast crash memorization of different kinds of things that are likely going to be on the test, and maybe it's not as useful in the long term as through a more tedious process like you talked about, Chris. And at least for me, I think I learned a whole lot more by going through the process and not just learning the answers.
Yeah.
Did anybody here hang out of helicopters prior to drone?
Oh,
yeah.
I still have a harness. I don't miss that. Do any of you still have use of, do you have a need for a helicopter platform to shoot anything, or is that gone away?
Nobody will pay for it anymore.
Yeah. So the DC market is unique in that it's all sealed airspace.
Yeah. Sure.
And so honestly, flying, I can get into this in greater detail, but flying a drone here is very difficult. And there was one guy who was the helicopter pilot for this area. There were more than one, but he happened to be in the one in Northern Virginia where I am. And he's in the process of trying to sell his business and retire. But I do remember having a job, pricing a job that needed a helicopter to fly in the sealed airspace right over downtown DC. And I got in touch with him and talked to them about it. And, he had all the authorizations and clearances to do that. But what I found interesting was that you had to hire a U.S. Marshal to fly with you. And the U.S. Marshal's entire job was to shoot you if you did something wrong. So if you were hanging out of that helicopter and you suddenly
inspiring.
pulled something out of your camera bag that shouldn't be there, his job was to shoot you, and he was a line item in the budget. U.S. Marshal to shoot me. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh, what did that cost?
I don't remember, but it was pretty expensive. I mean, U.S. Marshal don't
you
come
have to
cheap.
pay for the bullet too, I think. Huh?
The job never happened, but the fact is, if you in certain parts of the sealed airspace in D.C., you can't get a drone in there no matter what. But there are helicopter pilots that are certified to fly in the airspace as long as you bring the Marshal with you. So
we just did
I've not run into anything that complicated, but I have run into some situations where, like you mentioned, there's just no way you can put a drone up there legally.
Yeah.
And so it seems like the only alternative is to find somebody with an R44 or, heaven forbid, an R22 that you have to go up in, and that seems to be the cheapest route, maybe from a flight school or something. But the days of renting a Bell jet, those are gone, I'm afraid.
Can you guys hear me now?
We can.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Okay,
Well,
wonderful.
that's good to see. Yes, it's perfect.
Welcome back.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Back.
Just kind of going back to when you first started using a drone, about how long, I'm just wondering, have each of you been offering drone aerials as part of your business? Has it been a while now, or just recently? Yeah, Norm.
Yeah, for me, it's just been in 2016 or 17, we had a client that they just needed some, not for just to see the top of a building because they were bidding on something. So they hired us, and I didn't have a drone at the time, or it wasn't certified. So I hired a drone pilot, and went with, and he got the shots that I wanted. And it was so, the guy was so excited about the quality of them that we started offering it. So it's been, for us, it's only been, 3-4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 years.
Part of that is the helicopter thing. So.
Well, I got a Phantom 4 about 5 years ago.
Okay.
But I didn't actually get certified until about a year ago. So I didn't really offer it. If I could fly it, sometimes I would. But it wasn't until I got this little thing, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with this thing, the Air 2S.
Mm-hmm.
This thing's a game changer, man. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the quality is extraordinary. It fits in your bag, the size of a lens. And it's allowed me to do a lot of stuff with not much fanfare that I couldn't do before.
Is it because it's so much quieter and smaller, you think?
It's not a lot quieter, but it's definitely smaller.
Yeah.
So it's very portable. And the quality is just amazing. I mean, it's better than the Phantom. It also has better communications capabilities. So the signal isn't like going in and out. I was always afraid that the Phantom would take off on its own, which it never did.
Mm-hmm.
I never lost control over it, but I had that paranoia. And now with this thing, I don't worry about it at all. It's just, and of course you can get the whole kit for $1,300. So it's nice.
And what lens does that have on it? What kind of a sensor and lens does that have?
It's got a 1-inch sensor.
Okay.
And the lens is wider than the Phantom 4. The Phantom 4 is about a 24 millimeter equivalent. This is wider.
Okay.
Which is nicer unless you need to zoom in on something.
Is it rectilinear? Does it have a lot of barrel distortion?
No, it's fairly flat, actually.
Well, what was the name of that, Pablo?
This is the Air 2S.
Yeah, it just came out not too long ago. So it's a fairly new product.
Can you do 60 frames a second on that? I thought I looked into it and it had a 30 frame per second limit.
Yeah, that was.
It has. Yeah, to be honest with you, I haven't dabbled much with the video. Most of what I do with it is stills.
Yeah.
And most of the stills I do, I don't. A lot of people go way up too high. I mean, I just want to go up 30, 40, 50 feet if I have to get that shot that I couldn't get or that I used to use a lift for.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I use it for. And people have said, I see a lot of aerial stuff, but And, your aerial photographs are better than most of the ones I've seen. And I don't know if it's because people, just like to fly these things, but they're not really photographers or what. But this little thing is great. Let me tell you.
Yeah. I have found that I do more still work with drone than video work. A good example is I had a church to shoot, existing church that an architect client put an addition on. And, they build churches on hills. And so, if you're trying to do a land-based shot, you're already pointing the camera way up a hill, which isn't going to do you any good. And just by taking that drone up and just a little bit above the roof line, like you said, not crazy high, I got some really good stills that you couldn't have gotten, even, with a lift or anything else. So I do find they're really good for architectural work. They're almost better for stills than they are for video in terms of how they apply to the market.
What's the maximum aperture on that, Pablo? Do you know?
It's got a fixed aperture, which initially I didn't want to buy it because of that. I tried thinking about what was going to happen. It's a 2.8.
Okay.
But it turns out that because of that aperture, with the Phantom 4, I used to shoot everything like a 4 or 5.6.
Yeah.
Well, with this thing, you can do dusk shots down to like half a second, and they're sharp. There's no motion. I mean, it's almost dark outside, and you're getting these wonderful photos. I mean, this is what I mean about this thing being a game changer. It's just, it's got a fast lens. It's very sharp.
And your date shots, they're not soft with the 2.8?
Not at all.
Wow.
Not a single bit. Yeah, this is quite amazing.
Wow.
I'm using the Phantom 4 2 Pro. Is that what most everybody else is using? Or
I've got a Phantom 4 Pro, yeah.
Yeah, Pro. Yeah. I'm on my fourth one now, and not doing anything I did. They just had some
right.
DJI was just nice enough to say, "Yeah, that's a problem. We'll send you another one." So, but I found that, I use the aperture and shutter speed variability a lot because most of what I'm shooting are stills. I do shoot some 60 frame per second video for several clients, but I've done some sharpness tests with my particular lens, and it does vary a little bit between cameras. But there is a sweet spot at about 5.6 on that drone, where it is the maximum sharpness. And I've done that using an actual, test target so that you can see the sharpness and count the lines and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't just any kind of arbitrary assessment. And so that, to me, the fixed aperture was a concern on this new one. I would love to have that size because there's no hiding the Phantom once you get it up in the air. Everybody knows it's there, and
it's noisy.
It draws attention, and even if you put the stealth propellers on or whatever, no, it doesn't. It doesn't quiet it down that much.
The other thing about the Phantom is it's a separate backpack.
I put mine. I have a hard case for mine, a kind of a Pelican case that so I can leave the rotors attached and carry multiple batteries and all kinds of other things, chargers and things like that. So it's a checked bag for me when I travel. It's that big. It's not something I can just slip in my carry-on. Would that it were, but
Well, I'll give you an example. So I had a job at the mall, and it involved walking around these malls, all over the place. And I'd get to a point where I'd want to have an aerial and just pull this thing out, just open it up, take this thing off, put my phone on the controller, and I'm up in 2 minutes. Not a problem.
You fly that indoors? Okay.
No, not at all. No, this is all outdoors. I've never flown a drone indoors.
Do that. They'll do interiors and doing a so stupid virtual tours. I hate virtual tours. They'll actually they'll fly their drone inside. They got little small ones. I don't know what they are, but they're surprisingly good, especially if they've got aperture, or shutter priority on it. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, no, I've never done this.
That's why I got into drones.
You can't. It's too big and noisy. It scares them to death. But the small one like that, I could see that going indoors. I mean, I could see that.
That's actually why I got into it, because being in the DC market and not being able to fly outside, I wanted to do it as an add-on to my architectural photography, my still business, to say, hey, we're here, we're cleaning the place up, we're setting it up, let's do fly-throughs. And what I've run into is the geofencing, because it's perfectly legal to fly indoors anywhere. The FAA does not control indoor airspace, no. and I have that I have that actually from them in writing, even though it's common knowledge, just to make sure I got that from the FAA in writing. And but with the geofencing, so you can get it doesn't know if you're inside or not, and so you can get an unlocking code from DJI and say, here's what I'm doing. I'm in downtown in DC. I'm flying inside an office building. They'll send you an unlocking code. The problem is that the drone has to see a minimum of 5 satellites for that unlocking code to work.
Right.
So you go over by a window, you load the unlocking code. If the drone says, okay, fine, we can fly here, you get away from the window and it drops below 5 satellites and it drops out the locking code. It's not like you can just load it and then it sees it for that flight. It has to continuously see it. So, the whole unlocking code idea is really a bunch of crap. So I would like to find a drone that's got, high quality camera that doesn't have a lot of barrel distortion, that preferably is smaller, that will fly without geofencing, because, this Phantom 4 Pro that I've got is a really nice drone, but it won't do what I want it to do. And I've had too many emails back and forth with DJI, and it's a dead end with them.
And did you realize that you can't even launch that if you're in 4 miles of an airport?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I was shooting
the geo
by Midway Airport just 2 weeks ago, and I had to have a guy bring a lift to get my my 80-foot shot for the hotel.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it won't even launch.
Yeah, so the geofencing, what pisses me off about the geofencing is it's there to protect idiots. For those of us who are licensed pilots, who know what we're doing, who know what the rules are and are willing to follow the rules, that's fine. But the geofencing is just like crazy restrictive. My example of wanting to fly interiors is a good one. So if anyone does have a recommendation of a drone that sort of fits that bill, that's not going to have a lot of barrel distortion on interiors, and that does not have geofencing, I'd love to hear about it.
I'm wondering if Autel's drones might be a consideration for that. I don't know if you've looked at those or not.
I have. I can't remembe. It's like every time I look at a new drone, it's like, yes. Oh, crap.
Yeah.
That won't work for me. And then you look at another one and, it's good in 4 things, but not right in the 5th thing. I just haven't found that one that fits the bill for everything I need.
You guys had any issues with insurance? Well,
are you using Verifly, or what are you using?
I just wanted to bring this up because it seemed like insurance is always an issue, and there are companies that offer it, but it's expensive. And I called my agent who does my business insurance at State Farm. They just added it as a rider for $50.
Yeah, my agent said if you want to fly outside, they would add it as a rider. If you want to fly inside, they have to write a whole new policy.
Huh.
So I looked into Verifly that will insure interior. Now, I'm not sure if they'll insure interior in the sealed airspace, because I never got far enough along with them. But what I've kind of heard is that if you're not going to fly very often, Verifly is probably more affordable. So. But if you're going to fly a lot, just add it to your policy.
Yeah, we just have it added to our policy. I don't even know what it costs.
Yeah, some of the carriers are quite expensive. Allstate's one of them, and that I looked into, and it was like triple of what my normal business policy is to get that rider on there. And so Verifly, and there's a couple others that will do the per flight insurance for you. And to me, that was an easy way to take care of that. So especially if you're in a situation.
Had an inland marine rider, and it wasn't much money at all, and covered for liability. And if a drone takes a splash, they'll replace it. And it's like, oh, okay, great. One less thing to worry about with this thing.
Yeah. What about repairs? I crashed my Phantom 4 Pro on the firing range of the Fairfax County Police Department, which required a bit of negotiating and explaining to get it back. And it sat out in the rain because I couldn't get in there for a while. And anyway, I sent it to DJI for repairs, and they wanted almost as much to fix it as a new drone would cost.
Yeah.
And so I didn't fix it. And I'm at the point now where I don't actually have a working drone. I just looked the other day online to see who else repairs drones. And there are a couple of places that are like, flat $150 plus parts. I don't know. Has anybody had an experience with non-DJI repairing a DJI drone?
Now, the only thing I've had go wrong with mine is just changing the blades. I mean, they're not very robust, the ones that come with the unit.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot Patrick, one of the guys that work for us, he found some online that we've had now for probably 18 months with no problems. I have to look at, I don't know what kind they are, but they're aftermarket.
Yeah, I use the air screw rotors, and those are really nice. I've only ever sent to DJI, but I also bought their replacement repair policy thing.
Right.
And so I've had some catastrophic failures with mine where it's just dropped out of the sky. And luckily it hasn't hit anybody or caused any damage other than to the drone. So I just, boxed up all the parts and they send me another one. But it would sure be nice to know if there was somebody that was out there that was doing repairs, because I know the components are not expensive. You can buy a lot of the components on Amazon, repair components. So I don't know. I'll have to look into that. Who do you compete with as far as your drone photography? Are you seeing competition from, say, part-timers, weekenders, real estate guys, that kind of stuff? Does that affect anybody besides me?
No, I think that's a good point. I think it affects a lot of people. The real estate photographer, I'm always up. I was on the phone yesterday with an architect that wants us to do a couple condos in Chicago, and she got a quote from a real estate photographer. But anyway, that's always a problem, and especially now that they always do drone work.
Oh yeah,
and they offer video, and I can't work at those rates. I mean, it was like, they were quoting like $26, for a still. I can't do that. I'm sure it's not processed or anything, but yeah, I'm not going to go out and fly a drone for $26 still.
My concern about that market too is that I'm not convinced that very many of them are actually certified.
I don't think you don't have to be unless it's. Well, no, I take that back. If it's for commercial use, you absolutely.
Yeah, if they're selling the product.
No, I don't think for interior though. If it's exteriors, yeah, but for interior, since as I said earlier, FAA doesn't control interior airspace. I don't think, this is just my own opinion, that even if it's for commercial, I don't think you have to be licensed because you're flying in airspace that's uncontrolled by the government.
I think you're probably right on that, Chris.
But also, they're going to want an exterior, so you'd have to be certified for that. So
yeah, they might argue if they were to get caught, I think they would just simply argue that they're under X amount of feet and it was for personal use. And in that case, you don't have to be licensed.
Yeah.
Because I think most of them, I agree, Alan, I don't think they're licensed. I don't think they have insurance.
Real estate agents, they don't care whether you're licensed or not.
Yeah.
I've had issues with a couple guys. I mean, they want me to go up 400 feet, and they always want to get the property with an ocean in the background, even if it's 5 miles out. And it's like, well, I can't do that. And had to photograph a property, and they wanted one of these wide shots. And I saw a little park not too far away from it. I figured I could get a good shot from there. And there was a small regional airport not too far away, but the drone went up no problem. I figured this place must be closed. I put my Phantom 4 up about 200 feet. All of a sudden, a little Cessna flew under my drone.
Wow.
I mean, this thing was so quiet, just freaked me out. I still have PTSD from that. So it just works with wise, man. You really got to have situational awareness about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like getting hit by that train you thought you'd hear, but you don't.
Yeah. Are any of you using the top end strobes? for dusk. I know that's a requirement now with the FAA.
No.
That gives me a little bit more peace of mind when I think it's up to 30 minutes after sunset is your maximum anyway.
Right.
But you're supposed to have a white strobe on the top of your drone as a warning for other aircraft. So I've got one of those. Amazon sells them, and at least that gives me a little bit of peace of mind that somebody's, coming in on approach, and if I'm in the pattern somewhere, that at least they see me, and might try to avoid that. I'd hate to be the guy in the plane that takes a phantom in the propeller. So,
Alan, can you send a note about what kind of strobe you're using? I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, in fact, let me just show you. I think I've got it right here, actually.
Hey, that Pelican case, did you buy that specifically for that? Or is that custom made for that?
They have them on Amazon. I don't know if you can see that there.
Yeah, I can see that. I like that.
Yeah, they sell those on Amazon. I don't remember the brand, but I've got my drone and the controller and 4 batteries and charger and everything.
Did you have to cut the foam out for that, or was it?
No, it was all pre-cut.
Wow, I like that.
It's just made for the Phantom 4.
Oh, no kidding! I'm going to look at that.
So this is the little strobe that goes on the top, and it's got Velcro on the back, and so it just attaches to this spot of Velcro on the top of my drone here. And whoops, I just turned it on, and now I'm blinded. But
yeah, it's pretty bright.
It's bright. But it is nice to have that capability to just tell people what's going on.
So that's not powered from the drone battery, right?
No, it's not. It's got an internal battery. It's like a little watch battery or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that made specifically for drones?
It is. Yeah. I can post a link on the Facebook page or with this video that shows what that is. And then, this is one other thing. I don't know if anybody's using these signal boosters.
No.
They slip over the antenna on your controller. For me, this has just been a way to, get a little bit better signal and continuity, especially if I'm in a downtown airspace. And so they just slip over and amplify the signal for the antenna. And so you just want to slip that on, and then, that kind of thing. And
okay.
These are really cheap, but
okay.
That's another thing I found, especially in a downtown metro area where you've got large buildings and you may or may not be able to keep your signal strength up. That's a really good option. And then I use a multi-charger. It's an aftermarket that lets me charge 4 batteries and the controller all at once, which
that's a good idea.
That really helps, especially if you're traveling and you get to the hotel room and you've burned up 4 batteries that day and you got to go out the next morning or something. So that's a really nice option on that. I really wish that there was something on the horizon from one of these makers that really addressed our market. I know we're not a very big market, but without buying an enterprise solution drone, with a real expensive camera or putting a DSLR on a drone, there's just not a lot in that gap for architectural photographers. So,
yeah, I still know a couple of photographers that do the helicopter, or they'll put a gimbal on a Cessna or something.
Yeah,
and those, I tell you that the results they get from those, I haven't seen a drone touch that type of work.
Mm-mm.
You can't beat it. The file size is so large. You get of course, you're using your architectural lenses. It's amazing.
One thing I've been doing this past few months is on the DJI system to use the panorama mode. I don't know if any of you are using that, but if you do the horizontal panorama mode and push in just a little closer, then you get a 9-image panorama that you can then stitch. And I use a third-party software to stitch that and correct the perspective. It does it automatically. It's amazing. But then you get a really nice big file. And it's a little more time consuming to do it that way. And
the stitching is good, Alan. I mean,
stitching is really good. Yeah. The software I use is PT GUI Pro. It's PT GUI Pro. And then it has a whole bunch of different projections that you can choose from to put the panorama together, depending on what camera and how you've done the shot, or, whether it's conical or spherical or, whatever. And they have one called 90-degree cube face. And that's the one that takes that DJI horizontal panorama and corrects it. And it looks as if I've had, my 5DSR up there shooting just a single shot. It's really that good.
Oh,
it's just a nice, and I just did some experimenting to find out that you could do something like that. And it's really made a big difference for me anyway, to get those hero shots. Because I had a skyscraper in downtown Denver that I needed to shoot. And I just could not figure out a good way to get the shot. I couldn't get permission from adjacent buildings. And it went back and forth for a long time. And then finally, I just decided that I was going to come up with a solution on my own. And that's where I ended up. And I was really pretty amazed at the results coming out of that. And then I use a few other things on post-processing to enhance what DJI's file looks like. I don't know who else. Anybody else using any post-processing software to kind of clean things up or sharpen things?
Yes.
Photoshop.
I'm using the Topaz software. There's the Topaz Sharpen AI, and then the what's it called? The Denoise AI. They come in a software bundle. You can, and I think I might have I think they might have issued a discount code for AIAP that I can post that as well if you're interested. But the difference between what you get out of Photoshop from one of those DJI files after you've corrected it and fixed it and everything, between that and what you can get pushing it through the Topaz software is just night and day as far as sharpness and noise. And it's really pretty amazing.
I sometimes use Aurora, where I'll use Easy HDR, and I like I actually like the Easy HDR. It's really flexible. That's my favorite. If you're doing HDR, that's my favorite HDR work.
I use Aurora all the time.
Yeah, Aurora's good too
for my stills.
And Aurora does a nice job. It's got a lot of control.
You kind of have to pull the reins back on it
a little bit, and it doesn't really have good lens correction. That's the one beauty about Easy HDR is you can load any lens profile you want into it. And sometimes I'll use that just for lens correction. See, it's even better than using Photoshop. Yeah.
And that's a third-party software plug. Does it work as a plugin or a filter for Photoshop?
You can do it as a plugin. I don't like using plugins in Photoshop. So I use it as a standalone. But,
okay.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I like it better than Photomatics. People are big Photomatics fans, but the HDR makes it really keep the image up nice, and the image still looks like photography. Sometimes the Photomatics make it look like a rendering. And
I always had trouble with Photomatics.
That's pretty popular. A lot of guys like it, but
I never could get something that looked right with that. And then Aurora, to me, I like it a lot, but I have to just pull way back on
Yeah.
saturation and contrast and vibrance, and to make it look like a real picture. And so I'd be interested to try the Easy HDR.
Easy HDR. Bartik is the engineer. And if you had a problem or anything, the guy will email you. I mean, I've been using it for years. He's phenomenal. I recommend it. It's inexpensive. It's phenomenal software. I mean,
Is that part of Aurora, or are you talking about two different things?
No, it's Easy HDR is its own standalone product. Just
Okay.
Google it. It's amazing.
Does it allow you to batch? I'm sorry. Does it allow you to batch process?
Oh yeah, you can batch process.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Really good
That was the one thing about Aurora that I liked.
Yeah, me too.
Was, you know, I could dump it into Aurora and let it run overnight, because sometimes I'll shoot as many as 12 brackets on an image to try to blend together. And I like the blending algorithm that it had, but they had pumped up the color and contrast so much on it, and saturation.
Yeah. And they sometimes have a little difficulty with alignment with Aurora, I've noticed. Easy HDR does not. I mean, its automatic alignment is dead on. So, and I like the fact that you can load all these lens profiles into it. So, you know, that's important to me. I can't stand when something doesn't look right, but I like that. You guys should try that. That's really good software.
It's interesting to know that you can actually get feedback from the developer.
Yeah, you can. I mean,
the developer
is a small company. He wrote it. He develops it. He's a photographer, and I've talked to him on the phone, but he'll email you. I mean, he's just amazing.
That's good to know, because I've been back and forth with Aurora for a couple of years now, trying to get them to fix things.
No, you can send them an email. And you're like, "Where's that ending up at?"
I mean, they answer me, but they won't.
Eventually,
they just won't.
How was that spelled? Is it EZ or easy?
Here, let me just pull it up. Easy HDR3 is the software.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see if I can get cancel. Yeah. Easy HDR3. And the version I'm running the latest version. But yeah, it's for interior work, exterior, it's phenomenal software. I don't use any of their default is pretty good, and I go from there. I don't use any of their presets because they look, they look like photography. But
yeah,
but you can, what I normally do with my workflow is I'll make you can turn the contrast settings off, and then I'll make that my B file, and then I'll make an A file, and in Photoshop I'll put them together. And I'll take some of A and some of B. I'll just erase what I like and what I don't like. But,
interesting.
But it's really nice software, easy to use.
Good to know. Anything out there on the horizon that would make you change from the platform that you're using now to another drone platform? Anything that you're considering? I'm just curious.
I'm really going to look into what Pablo has, because it's so small.
I'll check this out. I mean, I was really skeptical. I mean, my Phantom does okay, and I've never had an issue with it. But my big problem is I didn't want to carry that thing around. I mean, I want to be able to pull this drone out of my case when I want it, put it back, and continue on my merry way for some of the assignments I've had. And I couldn't do that with the other one. It was like I had to set my camera down and go back to my car and pull out my drone. And, it was just a waste of time.
It's a process, yeah.
So try it out. I mean, you get the basic thing for $900 or the whole kit for $1,300. It's well worth it. Yeah. I mean, you'll be impressed with this thing, believe me.
Yeah, that 2.8 is a little scary. I mean, but if it's sharp, if it's a good
No, this thing's sharp as a tack.
Wow.
I'm telling you.
Well, I think back about shooting out of a helicopter, though, and I used to shoot with a Hasselblad primarily and a 50 millimeter lens. And I shot that usually at 5.6, which is not a lot different than what Pablo's talking about, and focused at infinity.
Yeah.
So,
it's a wide lens and at 2.8. I mean, obviously the depth of field is, I mean, you're pretty far away from your subject. I haven't had any issues with sharpness with this thing. Not at all. And it does have its automatic focusing, but it's just never been an issue.
Mm.
Yeah. So you probably just set the lens out to infinity and let it go.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say one thing about this, that at first I was, there's a feature on it where it's supposed to do a series of shots and do this HDR thing. And that's supposed to get you the best quality. I tried that. I didn't like it. It ended up being too noisy. Some of the, basically what it'll do, on some of these, it'll hike the ASA way up. And so basically all I've been doing, like on the dusk shots, is I'll set it no higher than 200 or 400 ASA. And sometimes you can get away with less than that, and just go for that half second, third second exposure. And unless it's windy or something, you're going to get a sharp image.
Wow,
and the dynamic range is damn good. I mean, it's just, it surprised me. I've done a lot of really nice shots at dusk with this thing that I wouldn't have been able to do with a Phantom.
Does it have a bulb setting?
A bulb setting?
Yeah, basically where you can control the exposure length yourself.
It's got a little slider, so you click on the shutter speed, and the slider comes up, and you can just pick your speeds.
Okay.
So,
Does it do hyperlapse? I'm curious.
It does do hyperlapse. I haven't used that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got several automated features. Follow you around. It'll do all kinds of crazy things, but I haven't used any of those. I'm just saying the quality of the still images was surprisingly good. I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, I'm going to look at that.
Let me just ask before we're getting close to wrapping up here, but are you using HDR for your stills on your drone shots? I mean, are you doing multiple shots like on the auto exposure bracketing mode? Is that something any of you are doing? Or
I do. I use the 3 bracket just to get the right exposure.
Okay.
Because sometimes I'll take the dark one, sometimes I'll take the light one, depending on the conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't use the auto brackets, but I will bracket, and sometimes I'll bracket up to 10 sometimes because I put them together. Yeah.
Okay.
I either do a stack in easy HDR, or I'll do a true HDR, and I like that. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done that with this also. It works pretty well.
Yeah.
It's stable enough.
Yeah, I found that the onboard auto exposure bracketing was not terribly useful for the DJI. And so I ended up doing it manually. And, like you're saying, Norman, I may do a ton in order to get things
I'd rather
right.
have too many than not enough.
Especially if it's at dusk. Well, that's interesting. I wish that somebody from DJI would watch this after we get this posted.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll send it to DJ and Autel and whoever else. But I mean, my wish would be for something the size of what Pablo's talking about that was 50 megapixels and had variable aperture and full manual kind of situation. But
well, honestly, I think the way this is going to go pretty soon is going to go AI, because I'm sure some of you have, some of the latest phones like this, and the AI is just amazing. And if you put something like AI together with a halfway decent sized sensor, it's going to be incredible.
Well, I hope things improve, because I've been using the same technology for several years now, and nothing's changed. They're sending out a lot of consumer stuff, but nothing our way. Anything else we need to cover before we sign off and enjoy a Labor Day weekend? I appreciate all of you being here. I hope you're all having a great, end of summer and beginning of fall. And in talking to most of the people that I've had contact with in the AIAP over the last few weeks, everybody seems to be having a pretty good year. So I hope that continues. Will Crockett, some of you know Will, but he used to say, if you're not shooting, you need to be marketing. And I've always taken that to heart. So good advice, no matter what the time. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. I will post this soon on the channel, and I appreciate your contributions. This has been very informative, and I appreciate all the information you've been so willing to share. And have a good weekend.
Good seeing you guys.
See you soon.
Good seeing everybody. Thanks, Al.
Thanks. Bye.
This has been another episode of A Photographer's Life. If you've enjoyed this program, please let us know by liking this episode and subscribing to this channel. A Photographer's Life is brought to you by the Association of Independent Architectural Photographers. This episode is copyrighted, and may not be used in full or in part, without the written permission of the AIAP. Please join us again soon for another inside look at the world of professional architectural photography.